main frame?
No. Back up, back up, back up, back up. Okay. Okay.
Hello everyone! Today we'll be talking about independence, and more specifically Latin American independence. The different narratives presented in different stories of independence are rooted in the different cultures of each nation. You're probably wondering, how am I going to talk about all of Latin American independence stories? And that is a great question. To avoid generalizations, we are going to focus on 4 different Latin American countries: Haiti, Argentina, Mexico, and Brazil. Haiti gained independence in January 1st, 1803, Argentina in July 1816, Mexico in July 1821, and Brazil in September in 1822. We will situate each country's independence history within scholar Alexander Dawson's 3 categories of independence stories: freedom, tradition, and nationhood. Before we start, I want to say that gaining independence as a nation for Latin America was only the beginning of their decolonization process.
We made it to independence.
Now you gotta keep running. Keep going.
Okay.
In other words, independence isn't the finish line, but just another leg in the race.
Our first story of independence is the one of freedom, the desire to escape and free oneself from colonial rule via independence. The 2 countries of interest that exemplify this independence story the best are Haiti and Argentina. If you look beside me, you can see Haiti protesting for the abolishment of slavery back in 1791 to 1803.
When I was a French colony, 80% of myself were slaves. Ever since the start of the colonial rule, slaves have just been mistreated unfairly and unjustly for decades. So I protested and revolted for years to destroy the entire colonial socio-economic structure. Soon after 1803, I saw slaves turn to masters of their own future within myself.
If you look over to my other side, Argentina is preparing for their war of independence.
Hello. During 1810, my people were filled with resentment towards the Spanish crown. So when Jose de San Martin came to liberate, all parts of me were moved by his words to fight for freedom from colonial bonds. Freedom motivating me to continue to fight in my war of independence.
As you can see, just by these 2 examples, there are multiple independence narratives in Latin America that were driven by the desire for freedom.
The second story of independence is tradition, tracing back to cultural roots to the land and maintaining self-governance. For this section, we turn to Mexico and Brazil.
You know, ever since Napoleon invaded Portugal and Spain, my colonial rulers in 1808, I've been torn in 2. Half of me wants to upkeep the traditional aristocratic family lineage to upkeep power, while the other half wants to free themselves from those same values. And at the same time, both sides want independence from the colonial state. I just don't know what's going on.
As you can see, Mexico at the time had a rough go at independence in relation to tradition. While Brazil, on the other hand,
I love slavery.
Brazil was a proud colony of Portugal that was easily granted independence in 1821 due to its hierarchy organized by local aristocrats under the rule of Portuguese Prince Regent John. Brazil's commitment to traditional and colonial values such as slavery allowed them to gain the conservative independence they so desired. Yet again, these competing narratives exemplify how commitment to tradition can also stand as a motivator in the fight for independence.
I'm free!
The third story of independence falls under the concept of nationhood. a separation to create a nation ruled internally and free of other forms of external governance. For this final section, we look again at Argentina and Mexico's independence histories, but in a different light. What you doing, Mexico?
I'm just trying to figure out how to restore the Constitution. I was technically declared independence in 1813 when the liberal junta government created the Supreme Court. However, that was very quickly dismantled in 1815 when Spain regained power. It's 1820 now, and for 5 years I've been trying to reset the Constitution to separate from Spain and create my own nation because now everyone's realized that I don't need the Iberian Peninsula to function. It's been very complicated for me, and I'm still very torn, but now it's over nationhood.
But you, Argentina, you had a different go at nationhood, right?
It was quite different. When I defeated the British troops in Buenos Aires and then won the major battle in Tucumán, I was granted independence in 1816. However, the people who came into power didn't support all those who were fighting for independence. The elite kept the imbalance between the urban and rural communities. After the freedom from colonial rule, due to their desire to solidify what the elite thought was an ideal nationhood.
As you can see, once again, although each country was trying to attempt to attain a solidified nationhood through independence, their stories are different.
During the years between 1808 and 1826, Latin America experienced large shifts towards independence and away from colonial rule. It is important to acknowledge that there are varying different types of independence stories within Latin America, and we can't just turn to one for reference.
So we urge you who's watching this video, to continue to read and explore all of the other histories of Latin American independence.
And on that note, we're going to enjoy our tea.
Cheers, John.